Week 9, lesson 3. Okay, so you've also seen these parent graphs before. That's not really the point of the lesson. The point of the lesson is domain and range. So I'd like you to see what you can do about filling in these XY charts and the graphs and the domain and range. So I'm going to have you pause, and then when you unpause, it should be filled in, just like that. Okay, so now down below, and I'll move this up in just a second. The question is, what sort of transformations have happened, right? Did it get moved left or right or up or down or reflected? And what does that do to the domain and the range? All right, so for A, because this is an adjustment to just the X, right? It has been moved to the left 3, left. Okay, so that means that the domain hasn't changed, right? Changing left and right doesn't do anything to the domain, and the range hasn't changed. Whereas this one, because it has been moved up 3, that will change the range. For E, this has been reflected over the Y, because the negative is in front of the X, reflect over Y, and it's been moved to the right 4. So there's the domain and the range. For F, it's been reflected, actually a lot of stuff, reflect over both, right? Because there's a negative in front of the X and there's a negative in front of the 2 as well. And it's been moved right 3. All right, so let me fill these in just like that. Okay, so on the next page, we're talking about exponential versus logarithmic functions. All right, so exponential is what you were just doing on the previous page, right? So this is a 1/8 and a 1/4 and a 1/2, etc. Okay, but logarithmic, as long as this base is the same, you can take these 2 columns and just switch them. Okay, it'll end up looking like this. And if you go to graph it, it ends up looking like this. And then the domain ends up being what used to be the range on the exponential graphs. And the range ends up being what that's not an 8. Sorry, this should be a little bit more sideways. There we go. It's what used to be the domain on the exponential graphs. All right, so then exponential down below for a base of 3 looks like this. And if you switch the columns to get the logarithmic graph, it looks like this. And when you graph it, it looks like this. And just as before, the domain is what used to be the range. And the range is what used to be, and I did that twice, used to be the domain. And so when you go to graph them, you just, again, have to figure out what has happened, right? So for example, on A, that graph has been moved left 3. Which means that the domain now looks like this, but the range has not changed. Okay, so figure out what's been done, figure out your domains and ranges, and you'll be doing some graphing.